Hello, thank you for being in a new video. This time I have unboxing of the Huawei Nova 12i. Let's get started. This is a device of Huawei's lower middle range. Let me tell you that its launch price in Mexico is $5,499. On the screen you see the reference price in dollars, just to give you an idea. But remember that the prices here are not the same as over there. Generally in Mexico the prices are higher, but let's find out what comes here inside the box, because from this outer cover we can already have a preview of the design it will have, which is possibly one of its most attractive points. We meet directly with the cell phone, which, as you already realize, has a super attractive design. It's not necessarily going to have a very pro photographic system, but because of the design, it definitely draws too much attention. Let's turn it on while we see what else comes in the box. As you can see, we first come across the tool to remove the SIM card tray, and subsequently it also includes a case that is completely transparent and totally flexible with slightly reinforced edges. It is not a very remarkable case, but it is always appreciated that it comes included in the box, considering that, for example, Samsung no longer includes even charger in devices of this price, so that's pretty cool. Let's put this case up so you can see more or less how it looks with the case on. Personally, I would prefer how it looks without this accessory because it looks much sleeker and more attractive, but it's up to you if you want to prioritize having a well-protected device. And finally, we have the 40-watt charger with Huawei's supercharged charging, which could be a standout section at this price, and its cable, which as you can see comes from USB-A to USB-C, in this case with a purple highlight to distinguish it. Remember that if you use the original cable, you can take advantage of the maximum charge, but if you use another cable that is not original, it is possibly going to be a slower charge since you need to have this same caliber. Well, that's all that comes in the box, so let me put all this away before I take a direct look at the phone. I've already got the device set up, so join me for a quick look at its specs. It is 8.4 millimeters thick and weighs 199 grams. We could say that its design is an attractive point due to the fact that it has a nice camera module and it also has very thin bezels except for the bottom bezel, but it's definitely an attractive design for a device of this price point. The screen is 6.7 inches in its diagonal, although it has LCD technology. We are offered 90 Hz in its refresh rate and Full HD plus resolution. It is not a very attractive screen, as you realize it loses quite a bit of brightness from some side, then it does not have very good viewing angles. The front camera is 8 megapixels with f-aperture 2.0. Here I have a glimpse of first impressions, the screenshot before taking the picture, so you can see how this whole area is burnt and overexposed, but after taking the picture I think it makes a good balance of highlights and shadows, so in that sense it gets to meet a good image quality. And on the back it looks like it has 4 cameras, but it's really not that many. The main one is 108 megapixels with f1.9 aperture, and then we find the 2 megapixel depth camera with f2.4 aperture. This is just for decoration, and this is the flash. So it's definitely a simple photographic system. In this case you're looking at the 108 megapixel photograph, so you can sort of see if it manages to maintain a good level of detail, and I think it does as far as it goes. It's not going to be the same 108 megapixel quality that you find on more expensive devices, but fortunately it looks like it does manage to give us a good level of detail in this mode of photography. Here you're looking at the normal picture with the automatic mode, then we have a picture with some zoom and it looks good quality. It looks like it does get to take advantage of the high resolution sensor in this setting still, and the maximum it reaches is 10x. In this case you start to see a bit more of each pixel, so it's not as optimized, but I think its zoom still manages to hold its own in a good way. At least it does seem to justify the addition of the 108 megapixel sensor. And as I say, the other camera is focused on detecting depth to differentiate between foreground and background, and I think it does a good job here. Notice how it kept the foreground in focus, blurring the background well, even in the areas of the objects, although it doesn't seem to me to be a photograph of too much detail, possibly because in this case it was indoors, so there is not so much illumination. It would be best to take these pictures in well-lit conditions, but we'll test that in the review. The device can record video in full HD. The battery will be 5000 milliamps, a very traditional figure, although remember that Huawei generally has very good management of apps running in the background, so it always comes out very well in our tests. I believe this will be no exception. It also has a 40-watt charger included in the box. I've already shown you that, but I'll remind you, it comes with 8 GB of RAM plus 3 GB of virtual RAM. This is possibly one of its strongest points, but we will confirm it in the video review when we test several applications open at the same time. For now, in terms of specifications, it looks good. And it will also offer 256 GB of storage, although there is also a 128 GB version. Obviously, it would be best to get the 256 version so that you have plenty of space. This would be another strong point. In addition, it comes with MIUI 14 as operating system. That is the latest from Huawei that will offer you good features, and in case you did not know, you can already enter the Google Play Store directly from Gbox. With this, it more or less manages to give you the same experience as other Android devices, although it's still not 100% the same. And lastly, the processor is Snapdragon 680. This processor, honestly, is not very modern. It's a processor that we've seen for several years now, and it's still around. Huawei usually does that strategy of repeating processor for several generations. Just remember how many times it used the Kirin 710. So let's do a little benchmark test so that you more or less see the power it could reach, and we'll come back when we have the final results. And that's it. We already have the results of this benchmark test, which show us that the processor is simply very underpowered. We have in this case 165 points on single core and 456 points on multi-core. It is definitely a processor that will give us acceptable performance, just barely fair for those who want to use simple everyday social networking applications. But remember that in the full review we will see in more depth what performance it can give us with various applications running when playing games and editing videos. For now, that's all for this video. If you liked it, you know you can let us know, and we'll see you next time.